allow judges to impose stiffer sentences for career criminals and repeat violent offenders. It's time for the law enforcement community of this country and this state to band together, pass a tough crime bill, give us the tools and the resources necessary to protect our community.
I'm going to stick to the issues. I think that the jobs and the safety and the progress of the state of Minnesota and its citizens is too important to engage in this kind of backbiting, and I'm going to try to avoid it for as long as I can.
And if I thought Tony Boza was for right to work and for destroying the rights of injured workers, I wouldn't be here standing with him today.
My name is Ron
Myself, Ron Dicklage, and Mary Anderson, Mayor of Kinney, in the State Senate, and also that people deserve to make a quality living.
It's nice being able to have the access of being able to listen to that in the morning.
Kenneth Beecher has added something new to his morning routine. He now reads the paper. Actually, he listens to it. Installed in his home, this box provides Kenneth and over 1,000 visually impaired people in the Twin Ports with a wealth of information and entertainment. It's the Radio Talking Book, a closed-circuit radio system produced by the Minnesota State Services for the Blind. Now available from the service is the reading of local newspapers.
The article which I'm going to read comes from the Ascoff American.
Each day from 9 until 11 a.m., volunteer readers come to the Lighthouse for the Blind in Duluth to relay information from 21 local daily and weekly papers to those who can't read themselves because of vision loss or other physical limitations. The program is new in this area, but already it's a big hit.
Wonderful feedback. The listeners have been calling and saying this is great. I can go down and have a cup of coffee at the local cafe and talk about what's happening in the newspaper again, where they haven't been able to do that.
You get all the main stories. They don't read the whole paper, which is just fine because I don't like to read the whole paper anyways. Even when I could see, I never like to read the paper. So, but this is just an amazing little radio.
In Duluth, Ted Rollins, News 6.
Here, none present, none absent. Good evening, everyone. The presentations, the petitions, and other communications.
I see Dick Salt in the audience. Did they get that information?
Sort of an overlay program should be
That a lot of people want to see the $6 million.
But I think we all feel strongly enough that the process has not been followed to the letter of the Environmental Quality Board rules and the Minnesota state rules how an EAW should be assessed. And so at that point we feel we really have grounds to take it to court. Otherwise we wouldn't bother with it.
The case centers on the state's premier walleye fishery, Lake Mille Lacs. Local Chippewa argued they deserve a percentage of the fish harvested from the lake each year, as well as rights to natural resources in the surrounding counties. Local resorters say their business depends on things staying as they are. Now, after years of arguing, U.S. District Judge Diana Murphy has ruled that the Chippewa will retain the right to hunt, fish, and gather wild rice on the lands ceded in 1857. Treaty rights opponents fear this decision will allow Native Americans to exploit natural resources.
This is natural resource stealing, rape, whatever you want to call it, and the fish are gone all across North America from this. You know, Oregon, they're gone, Washington, they're gone, Idaho, they're gone. Right here on Rainy Lake, the fish are gone in the west and north aren't from Indian overharvest.
But local Native Americans see this decision as a new partnership, sharing natural resources with those who wish to enjoy them.
I see the Anishinaabe working hand in hand with the state and with anyone else who uses the resources to protect them. Our old stories said that the white man would come to us for information about how to live here. And so I see this as the beginning of that partnership.
Attorneys for the state and landowners contended the band willingly gave up their rights to assimilate. But attorneys for the band argued Native Americans never would have done that. The state plans to appeal. In Duluth, Molly McMillan, News 6.
Somewhere, someday, this fall in Yellowstone, something extraordinary will happen. A fence will be left open in a pen containing 30 wolves like these, trucked down from Canada.
It's certainly unprecedented to bring back a large carnivore in the West. That's never been done.
Wolves in the West were hunted relentlessly until all were gone. They were seen as evil predators, killing livestock, and in Yellowstone, killing popular park wildlife like elk and bison. A campaign to bring back wolves has gone on for a decade. This summer, the Clinton administration approved the wolves should be here in a few months.
The nucleus that does everything right and decides that this is a little bit of heaven, wolf heaven, they will be the nucleus that will breed and create the Yellowstone wolves of the future.
Wolf opposition came mostly from ranchers, fearful for their herds as wolves leave the park.
And I think the fear is out of kilter with the reality of the species. And I think the longer that these wolves are around and adjust to living in the greater Yellowstone, the more people will accept them.
The Park Service is now facing at least 4 lawsuits on this issue, 2 from groups who want to see more protection for the wolves, 2 from groups who don't want to see any wolves. None of the lawsuits are likely to stop reintroduction, which could happen sometime this fall. Larry Warren for NBC News.
I've had a lot of background in management within a regulated type of environment. In other words, the lawmakers decide on what revenues are going to be collected, how the money is going to be spent, and I'm used to working in a cooperative environment like that.
Years ago, we'll be celebrating 20 years next year. I just love this building. Now, who did the decor? All the design. Well, actually, Rosemary and Tina. I mean, there was.
We'll have the Duluth area DWI task force will be operating on Friday night and Saturday night in the Duluth area. Additionally, we'll have about 6 additional troopers working on Labor Day itself.
And that will be for an opportunity of you, the audience, to pose questions to the candidates that are here tonight.
And what an opportunity it was, the chance to question all 10 candidates running for the 6A House seat. That's right, 10 candidates for 1 representative seat in St. Paul. The huge pack of candidates began to build when incumbent Dave Battaglia announced his retirement after 9 terms in office.
I was one of the original 5 people that announced they were going to run for Dave's seat when he announced he was going to retire. and I attended the DFL endorsing convention back on the 12th of July. And we spoke there, and at that time there was 5 of us interested in it, and something happened after that day, and the floodgates opened up, and now I guess there's 10.
With that many candidates, what's a voter to do? Well, the voters in Two Harbors decided to put all of the candidates in one spot to literally put them on the spot.
A few of us felt that we don't know the candidates out there. The newspaper did a partial story, but really how to meet them firsthand. And because they're from such a wide area, diverse background, and that by putting this type of forum together, and Community Ed is the one that followed through, you know, and did this, that we can chance to meet and to know.
District 6A covers a wide area taking in Two Harbors, Cook, and Ely. The candidates seeking to represent that area all agree that a strong voice for rural Minnesota and jobs are top priorities.
Single most important issue, I think, is jobs. Jobs, if people are working, it seems like it alleviates a lot of the other problems we have.
The candidates for District 6A are as follows: Thomas Bach, Michael Coombe, Paul Forsman, Scott Johnson, Paul Kess, Bill Loziak, Lee Ramsdell, Todd Radosevich, Roger Scraba, and Brian Skyta. All are running in the DFL primary. Michelle Lee, News 6.
We've seen a lot of devastation to Montana. Unfortunately, it's a kind of a pity, but I guess that's the price of forest fires.
I've never seen so many clothes coming in so fast at one time. I work at a mall and I still never see this many clothes. It's really heartwarming to see so many people doing it at a real important time for the Salvation Army, with weather getting colder and people needing warm clothing.
candidates in this U.S. Senate race. And on September...
I'd be happy to answer any questions. Why? If you look at these international creative sites, that they are what spurs...
Candidate opposed to NAFTA. I am the only candidate selecting senator, governor, and we need every Minnesotan.
For jobs in Minnesota as we develop our exports. So I think she's short-sighted, and in the long run, we're going to come about.
Tom Foley is just wrong. I've been a good friend and supporter of northeastern Minnesota, and quite frankly, I wouldn't have the endorsement of these folks.
An estimated 40,000 gallons of raw sewage mixed with rainwater have already flowed into Lake Superior since the Duluth City Council delayed its controversial sump pump ordinance. Western Lake Superior Sanitary District Director Kurt Soderberg says pumping stations at Lester River and Morgan Park could not keep up with the inflow of rainwater on Monday and Wednesday nights.
We've just been reminded in the last couple of days that the problem has not gone away.
Soderberg says with this week's rainfall, now is the time for Duluth residents to check the catch basins in their basements to see if they have a home that's contributing to the problem.
Take the cover off the catch basin in the basement, and if it's completely dry, you're probably not part of the problem. If it's wet, if there's a trickle there, if there's a gusher there, then you are part of the problem.
Soderberg says even a small trickle into a catch basin can increase the flow from one's home by 5 or 10 times, too much for neighborhood pumping stations to keep up. Area communities like Hermantown, Cloquet, and Two Harbors have experienced the same overflow problems. Some pumps ended up being part of the solution. Minnesota Pollution Control Agency officials say they're not dictating a specific solution, such as sump pumps, but it's up to the city, a citizens task force, and WLSSD to find an answer before the December 31st deadline.
A lot of the information that is needed to come to a conclusion is already at hand. And we believe that the decisions that need to be made can be made.
In the next few months, the Citizens Task Force will be looking for alternatives to solve the city's ongoing sewer problems. In Duluth, Gina Katzmark, News 6.
It funds programs that are in Superior and Douglas County, programs such as CASDA, the Center Against Sexual and Domestic Abuse, the YMCA, the Sheltered Workshop, the
We have done a total renovation of the auditorium. We've replaced the carpeting, wall coverings, painted the entire auditorium itself, a new curtain. We've painted the sound shelf for the symphony this year, and we replaced all of the seats.
And that's what this recommendation is all about.
The Minnesota Senior Federation has been lobbying to keep utility rates down since...
We all understand that there are increases that need to be made. We also feel, though, that we ought to share that burden fairly. And that's what this recommendation is all about.
A Minnesota Power spokesperson says big businesses...
Is it all taken care of now?
They were filling some barrels apparently in the basement, and they got two of the products mixed together.
What were the products?
I believe it was chlorine and muriatic acid.
And what's it used for?
It's used in their pool. It's common chemicals used in pools and spas.
What we're doing is just trying to deal with the political situation, and we have some candidates we want to support, and we think this is a way to come together with the other labor organizations and get our point across and support our candidates. We're going to be here till 4 o'clock this afternoon. Pretty good so far. We haven't got into the real political debates yet, but we will this afternoon. And we've got our candidates coming for us. I think it's very interesting. It's time.
Up here, down here?
Right there.
Simple. You bet. Thank you.
We've had a long 2-year struggle to try and get this building and try and get it so it will be taken care of, that'll last a long time, and that'll be there for the tenants, not for the landlords. And we have finally succeeded today. I'm quite pleased.
We're working the hospitality suite for the Cowboys. And ultimately, it ends up in court again. And, you know, the last thing the city of Hibbing needs, of course, is to be back in court, particularly when we've got so much going on right now. I mean, as you look around the city, there's construction every place. We're working on the downtown. We put the Android together. Louis Gino's project is going to start moving dirt next week. We've got a couple other new businesses happening. So there's a lot of momentum going on right now. The last thing that the community needs is to get mired down in politics and personalities again.
This fellow was, this is his 4th year of hunting up here, and he left his stand
didn't see anything, left his stand and was going to take a walk, and evidently it got dark on him. And that's about all we know.
Some new challenges, where do we go from here? And I think that could be very interesting and very positive, because God is able to do exceeding abundantly and above all that we ask.
If one is black-lined and one is...
Now, and next Monday, hopefully, what's happening is that the documents are coming at the last minute from...
We approved a package in 1992. In many ways, it was a larger package, but I think the deal that we've approved today is a more secure package than what we had for us in 1992.
Well, I guess it's sad when we start to consider that the actions of the councilors may be contingent on what their future ambitions would be. And I guess I kind of try to downplay that. I would hope that each councilor makes the decision as a representative of their district in the city right now, and not whether or not they're running for mayor or not. That's up to each individual councilor's own choice. That's a decision that they have to make. But if we're playing this as though
And just line them up right here. On the chute too, because we've got those big buckets of potatoes. And if we can have a little bit like that, but we've already cut up a bunch of it, so we can work. Which they go to, I'm sure. Okay.
When it comes to the Minnesota Lottery, the numbers don't lie. The Minnesota Environmental Trust Fund received $23 million in 1993 and $24 million in 1994.
The way the law reads that the money should be spent on innovative long-range programs, something that's going to be passed on to future generations, that's the real purpose of it.
Each year, the lottery's total sales are divided up and distributed into 5 separate areas. Nearly 58% is returned to the prize pool. Just over 17% goes toward a general fund that includes in lieu of sales tax. 12% covers operations expenses, including advertising. Nearly 6% is returned to the lottery retailers in the form of commissions, and the environment gets the rest.
And we had about 400 requests for programs, for different projects. So to reduce that from 400 projects down to less than 100 projects, it was a tremendous job for the committee. We worked all summer doing it.
The state plans to use some of the money from the fund to buy thousands of acres of land along the St. Louis, the Cloquet, and the Whiteface rivers so that the natural state of the rivers may be kept intact for generations to come. This project and others, such as new parks, trails, and the cleanup of streams, are all made possible because of the lottery. In Duluth, John Jetta, News 6.
And what we really wanted to do was not only do something good for the community, but try and do something with school spirit to try and get the schools to work together.
The winter quarter, 2 weeks into it.
She took biology. She probably knows a lot of the teachers you guys know.
To the Deferred Compensation Plan Commission for workers and
recommendation? Okay, our recommendation is no. The recommendation that we're making says that there are many other alternatives that should be tried before we try the sump pump situation. And if we do try the sump pumps, that it only ought to be for people whose foundation drains really are producing a lot of water.
What's your favorite class?
My favorite class is science.
Fourth graders at Lincoln Park Elementary were practicing grammar today, but next week they'll put their inventor's caps on.
I was gonna make a water fountain where you press the button and there's a cup of water down here, and the button presses and it it's this little cup, and it scoops water up, and water comes up in that cup.
Sounds like a great idea, but to truly explore their scientific minds, their teacher says they need a few more tools, like Legos or a microscope. In most schools, microscopes are provided by the school for older students, but not at the elementary level. Things like books, pencils, and paper use up most of their budget, so what's the best way to get more supplies? Advertise.
Well, there's people in the community who are cleaning their basements and their closets, attics, and probably throwing out things that they would just as soon have somebody like a kid in school use. So I ran the ad in the paper.
Kids get tired of just reading books. Burnson says kids need to explore to really learn.
The microscope that I want to have in my classroom is for that moment when we go for a walk in the park and bring back something that we really want to see what it looks like up close. And I really, really feel that children need to touch and feel and explore and build and make mistakes and start over again in order to learn, that it enhances their learning.
During a time of tight budgets and talk of tax hikes for schools, Ms. Burnson and the fourth graders at Lincoln Elementary are hoping this year Santa is reading the paper. In Duluth, Molly McMillan, News 6.
John Salvi, whether or not anyone agrees with or disapproves of his actions, he was, I believe, acting in defense of innocent life. He was a man that's willing to pay a dear price, evidently.
Going on. First of all,
We advertise our city across the nation as a place that has 4 distinct seasons, and a place that you don't get tired of doing the same thing year-round. I mean, I know I'd get tired of playing golf year-round. We have an opportunity to utilize the resources that we have, utilize the snow and the cooler weather to do the types of events that we're doing. More people working in Duluth now than have ever been working in the history of our city. New companies coming in, expansion of companies within the community. Tourism is on the increase. There's just so many good things happening. A frequent sign you'll see this year is work in progress. And that's because you and I, the City Council and others, have been working hard to make plenty of progress.
It used to be the Barnum High School auto shop, but a $15,000 loan and a lot of hard work have transformed it into a fitness center filled with various types of exercise equipment. Equipment not just for student uses.
I just hope to see this place just packed during the, when it's open to the public, and hopefully be able to pay back the loan that we got from the school board with success and on time.
Even more amazing than a school acting as a public fitness center are the people running it. 5 Barnum High School students are responsible for overseeing the day-to-day operations and making sure that business goals are met.
One of our main goals is a financial goal, and that is to try to pay back as much of the loan as we can in as short a period of time as we can. Another one would be to get as many people from our community involved in this facility.
According to those involved, providing fitness as a service for area residents goes way beyond the financial scope of the idea.
It gives people a sense of self-confidence. They see their body getting better every day. They're able to do more stuff around the house. Walking up a flight of stairs is no problem.
The fitness center is open a total of 40 hours per week, and memberships range anywhere from $10 per month for a student to $25 per month for a family.
We're continuing to add some cardiovascular equipment that I think many people will enjoy. It's not the same thing that they see in other places, the bikes and the Nordic tracks. We're trying to add some things that's different for people to use.
In Barnum, John Jetta, News 6.
Lake.
Oh, okay. What names would you like me to put on this?
And Bill.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Okay, thanks for coming. Yeah.
What I try to do is to draw on my own experiences with wild wolves to try to lay some of those misconceptions to rest.
Have you done some things with them before?
Yes, I've been up there, and I'm a member.
She's written some different wildlife researchers and has a lot of interest.
You know, this AmeriCorps program is really big.
Pocketbooks, and we were left with nothing.
So basically, you got to go up to their office then. Is that how that works? The bone and the four.
You already got it pretty much earmarked on what you want to spend it on?
Yeah, household furniture and dependable car.
She was painting on that tile, creating a pattern to match that family heirloom Russian plate so it can be used up behind someone's kitchen sink. Cheryl Vanderpool does lots of that work, has 5 or 6 projects going at once, painting currants that'll go behind somebody's cooktop, or primroses on that sink base, or blue columbine and other wildflowers inside the sink. She'll paint for a couple of hours or so and then pick up something else. Seems like there's always something else ordered from as far away as New York.
A designer called me up, kind of stuttering, asking if I could paint in a bidet. This Jewish man that we're doing the house for wants a conversation piece. He wanted the face of Hitler painted in the bottom of his bidet.
Cheryl Vanderpool said the man had a plaque installed above the bidet that reads, "Sweet Revenge." Cheryl Vanderpool's painted porcelain professionally for 4 years. Personality art, she calls it, because people are so individual about how they decorate their homes. For example, one time a confirmed bachelor ordered a mermaid to decorate his shower stall.
He was going to fax me what the top half would be, and he said the bottom half, any old fish will do.
That's what Cheryl Vanderpool enjoys about painting on porcelain. It's always interesting, always different, and she had no idea so many people want it done.
Ken Speak for NBC News.
That gets pretty wild. I brought
We certainly want to help strengthen the care that's provided in Superior so those people can stay closer to home.
Since moving to Duluth, Cirrus Design has been working on two major projects. One is the ST-50, a new high-speed, long-range aircraft that seats 5 passengers. The other is called the SR-20, a low-cost, low-wing, single-engine aircraft for training and personal transportation. In its lawsuit, Cirrus Design claims Gregory Cole, an engineer, and Dennis Olcott, chief of analysis, learned valuable trade secrets about the two airplanes, trade secrets that could end up in the hands of their biggest competitor, Pacific Aviation Composites. Officials here at Cirrus Design declined to comment on the case today, but according to court documents, the company maintains it will suffer irreparable harm if the two men are allowed to work for Pacific Aviation Composites. Court documents reveal Cirrus's claim that both Olcott and Cole gained confidential business information which they could and are using to the detriment of Cirrus. The families of the two employees are fighting this injunction.
He thinks it's unfair, the fact that they're trying to prevent him from working for this employer when they have, I believe they've mentioned other employers, which is okay with them, but it just doesn't really seem fair why they're singling out this company, this employer, as someplace they cannot go to.
In court today, attorney Tom Andrew asked a judge to dissolve the restraining order, saying the men's livelihoods are in jeopardy.
And if they're restrained from working here and they lose their jobs, it's going to be very, very difficult in this day and age of cutbacks in the aerospace industry for them to get other jobs.
Judge David Bouchard is expected to rule on whether he'll dissolve the restraining order soon. In Duluth, Bill Lund, News 6.
Well, I think health is a big factor, and it starts with the young and goes all the way up to the old. And it also gives a time for people to know all the different agencies and organizations in their community.
Teenagers are more often the victims of crime than any other age group, and that has community leaders working harder to teach kids alternatives to violence.
But we've seen kids who are reverting to more violent behavior, and that the kids doing that are really younger. When I first started working with juveniles, customarily you'd work with 15, 16, 17-year-olds, but now it's not uncommon to be working with 11, 12, 13-year-olds.
Come on up, Andy. And now, Andy, please, this is just going to be a role play, so it's just make-believe, okay? Okay. All right. Andy, my man, how you doing? Just
Teens Crime in the Community uses guest speakers, role-playing, and group discussions to educate teens about the price of crime and how to prevent it. Teachers say students are enjoying the program and they're carrying the lessons outside of the classroom.
They like to come to school and do this because it's a little bit different than the normal curriculum, and they get to talk more and work in groups more and learn about more issues that are today issues rather than past issues.
Teens Crime in the Community is used in 40 states. The Hibbing-Chisholm program is being called a national model because of its partnership between the schools, law enforcement officials, and the community.
And what we found in the past, that students that go through this course, more than their counterparts that don't, are much more likely to not associate with delinquent peers, and by doing so, reduce their own delinquency.
No one is certain exactly how many crimes are prevented through the program, but Iron Range authorities say the more teens learn about crime in the classroom, the less they'll have to learn on the streets. In Hibbing, Gina Katzmark, News 6.
Hey, how you doing? Good. Keep along. Wag it down.
It happens to parents all the time. They take their eyes off their child for just a minute, and when they look back, they're gone. Just vanished into thin air. Those seconds searching are agony.
I'm worried someone took her.
It's just often going into a store, trying to shop, and then you turn around and she's just gone. So it's like constantly trying to look for her.
One company decided to turn that kind of terror into profit. By using defense technology, they developed a radar system that can detect the whereabouts of wandering children.
With the continued cutback in defense spending, Harris is actively seeking other applications in the consumer and commercial markets for the technology that we've developed.
No, it's not a shop.
The Harris company took that technology and created the Beeper Kid, an electronic leash. A transmitter is pinned onto the child, and a receiver is clipped onto the adult. When the child goes outside a 15-foot boundary, a beep goes off, signaling the parent.
Oh, yes.
The company claims this new technology works better than other conventional locators and pagers.
The digital technology that we use in Beeper Kid is not affected by interference or by reflections off of walls or nearby objects.
While this woman says she'll stick with her $10 low-tech method,
I prefer this because I can feel her and feel her presence.
Most moms say the $150 price tag for the beeper doesn't seem like much if it can save them from those agonizing moments looking for their child. I'm Connie Sheets for NBC News.
As police comb through the brushy area on top of the hill for any signs of evidence today, police elsewhere were making arrests. Arrested early this morning, John David Dioria, a 23-year-old unemployed Duluth resident, and this afternoon, Mark Stephen Thomason, 25 years old, also unemployed, also of Duluth. Police say charges are now being considered by the county attorney's office. Meanwhile, the body itself was found yesterday by a boy on an all-terrain vehicle.
And when the officers went up there, what they found is they found a woman who appears to have been shot in the head, and her body is frozen.
The woman was shot in the head at least once. She's been identified as a 33-year-old Duluth woman. Police are not sure whether she was shot where the body was found or whether she was just dumped there. But last night, police got the break they needed in this case, a tip which led to the questioning of two people.
One of the individuals tells us he was present during the death and was arrested at approximately 3 a.m. for the investigation of a homicide.
300 of those jobs are full-time at $12 an hour plus benefits. The rest part-time, about 700 of those jobs at almost $10 an hour plus benefits. They're good jobs right here for the city of Duluth. They're all going to go into the old Super One food store behind me here in West Duluth. They're already preparing the building and moving ahead. Mayor Gary Doty says it's probably the biggest project he's ever been involved in.
And you can imagine not only what that's going to do for the city of Duluth, but what that is going to do particularly for this part of town, Spirit Valley, West Duluth area. So I said to somebody when I came in, I'd love to own the Subway shop in the corner down here.
In West Duluth, Derek Hines, News 6.
Romance this time of year is a hot pursuit. Lovers all over the country are hoping to spark some passion in their lives by sending the perfect Valentine. But romance in the 90s is a little harder to come by. People we talked to said work got in the way of romance. So we did some looking for you. First, there's the expensive Valentine.
All women like jewelry, so it's really not a problem to find something that... There are many things that are good for Valentine's Day.
Diamonds may last forever, but may also be out of your price range at tax time. So how about a more affordable option?
Cupid teddy bear. He's cute, very affordable. A lot of guys buying these for their girlfriends.
And of course, there are always the traditional Valentines, like your milk chocolate variety of sweets in a heart-shaped box, or maybe you want to send your message with a carnation. Whatever the choice may be, after we got some ideas, we wanted to find out how some shoppers were doing, and more importantly, find out how they feel about love in the 90s.
I work nights, so that's probably the hardest part.
Work seems to get in the way of romance in the 90s. Eric Ramsey's buying a Valentine for his niece and nephew. But for a significant other, well, he's too busy working.
No, not really. Just kind of working, pay bills, and...
Take care of yourself.
Yeah.
But once in a while you get lucky in finding romance, like Angie. She's telling everybody who her Valentine is.
I love you, Dave Nelson.
No matter what you decide to get for a Valentine this year, whether it be candy, flowers, a picture, or a card with your own message, people we talked to about love in the 90s said the bottom line is, it's the day itself that's important.
It's good that they have a day where, like, you can show people what they mean to you, but it doesn't necessarily have to be Valentine's Day.
So now that you've been through all of those choices for Valentine's Day, just remember, it's not the size of the Valentine that makes a difference, it's the message inside it.
In Duluth, Molly McMillan, News 6.
Because he's my best friend. And I think that has a lot to do with it. It's, I don't know whether I'm his best friend or not, but I guess so.
Ethel and Rudy Swanson have been married 61 years. They had a simple wedding, no fancy dresses or tuxedos, but they say things were different then. They didn't face challenges that couples in the 90s do.
We concentrated more, I think, on marriage. Today, the man has to work and the lady has to work in order to make things go.
Experts say we may see love and marriage differently today than Ethel and Rudy did years ago. A major social step for a lot of couples in the last few years has been living together before getting married. Brett and Mary Donnellan are a typical 90s couple.
I didn't really expect there to be
any change, you know, because like I said, we did live together, which, you know, may not be right for everyone, but I think it worked out for us just in getting to know each other, and I don't know, I just think it, you know, it worked out in the long run.
You really, really don't get to know each other until you're married.
We've seen both of our parents go through a lot of things that we've heard that couples nowadays will break up over, and we've seen them, and a lot of people might say, well, that's a different time, and you just married and you stuck it out. Well, that's what marriage is.
Experts also say that may just be a difference in ideas about love, but how about quality time? Is it harder to find time together in the 90s?
He has to work, she has to work, and they don't see each other that much. If they can sit down to a meal, they're lucky. Where we ate 3 meals together. I think that's a big, big difference today.
We just make something really quick, and we usually plop down right here on the, you know, I don't know the last time we've ate at the dining room table, which is kind of sad, I think.
So why is there such a difference in ideas? And are these generational differences the reason why some couples have a difficult time keeping it together?
I really think we're in quite a transition stage in terms of, as men and women, we're just discovering ways to be comfortable with our differences.
So if we're seeking love in our lives and we know we'll probably be faced with challenges, how do people in the 90s stay together? Well, after 61 years, Ethel and Rudy think they have the answer.
It's a lot of give and take. You have to respect the other person's ideas. Maybe you don't agree with them, but don't get angry about it. Try and sit down and talk it over calmly.
Weatherproofing is where you have, you know, you're having this wonderful warm time by the fire, and all of a sudden you notice a little draft, and so you get up and you fix the window, and now that you're up you see some other problem. And then there's constant things that need to be tended to. We can be like that in our relationships, so that we're tending so much to the things that aren't quite perfect that we forget to put another log on the fire.
In Duluth, Molly McMillan, News 6.
Rather than full.
See if you can park there by Carter Lake's investigation unit and the scuba van, please.
A desperate situation, kids playing out on thin ice. One boy is on his way to the hospital. Now rescue efforts turn to the other boy and the Good Samaritan who tried to help the kids. Both the boy and man are under the ice.
I heard somebody screaming, and I was coming from the airport right over there, and I looked over there, and I could see somebody.
Well, if nothing else, we can drag it this way, but you're not going to be able to do much more.
Onlookers watch in horror. Rescuers slowly get closer to the spot. The ice is only 2 or 3 inches thick in areas.
It's almost ready to go through. Out there, it's a little bit better. Out by the holes,
Again, you don't bunch up if you're off out of this boat.
Family members are in shock. They hope, they pray. There is a break. The massive effort by divers is working. The man is found. They work on him. Minutes after he is taken away, divers make their second rescue. They find the other boy. He's been under the water for over an hour. They work with precision. Emotions aside, they work to save him. It all started as a day of playing for two young boys. It ends tragically. Nearby, there is a confused dog. He's waiting. It was his owner who tried to save those two boys. At Carter Lake with photographers Roger Hamer and Jim Hinchek, Vanita Sokar, Channel 6 News.
Mark Stephen Thomason is charged with shooting Diane Olson in the head from 4 feet away with a high-powered rifle. According to the criminal complaint, Dioria saw a bright flash and saw Olson lying on the ground. Thomason yelled to Dioria that it was an accident. But according to the complaint, Dioria told police, quote, "There's no way he shot that girl by accident." It has been more than 2 weeks since the body of Diane Olson was found in what's known as the Antenna Farm in Duluth. Olson was wearing only her underwear when found. Dioria told police that they hid her clothes, fearing their fingerprints would be found. Police say Olson was last seen leaving Hurley's Bar in the West End in the early morning hours of February 7th. Also today, family members and members of the Native American community who had expressed frustration that charges had taken so long say they are now satisfied.
Satisfied for now. Hopefully at some point the family's wishing that he will be charged with first-degree murder. Hopefully down the line.
It's known as the Berkey. The American Birkebeiner started as a small remote race in 1973. 23 years later, it's attracting some 10,000 skiers and over 40,000 spectators.
The feeling of flying like a bird and seeing all the people so engrossed in their common sport, you know, it's just fabulous.
The streets of Cable are alive today as merchants and hotel owners get ready for the big day. The race is expected to generate an estimated $4 million in the Hayward-Cable area.
You're going to see your restaurants, your motels, and obviously your apparel, your ski shops or whatever. But for every person that comes in, a lot of them come back in the summertime, and consequently a different hoe aspect is involved in the summertime.
Inside Telemark Lodge, skiers register for either the 52-kilometer Berkey or the 25K Kortaloppet. David Eckel has been skiing the Birkebeiner for 18 years. He's not among the world-class competitors from all 50 states and 20 countries, but that doesn't matter to him. He comes for the fun.
I've been doing it since started in 10th grade for doing the Kortaloppets, and then I did the Berkey, and 78 started.
Most of the people here are what's called citizen skiers. They're here to maybe improve their personal best or just to see if they can go the distance. Some will, some won't, but almost all of them will have a great time trying. At Telemark Lodge in Cable, Wisconsin, Barbara Riles, News 6.
I'd like to be back. I like that town, and I can do so much more if I'm there greeting the people. You know, as long as I'm in town, I like to do something good.
Legislature's responsibility as elected officials? Are you
The truth is, the more we postpone, the more we procrastinate, the more we bicker, the more we harm our own future.
Change now as a result of both the revised...
Recommending the following. One, that we establish a true rainy day fund. Because believe me, it is going $1 billion new dollars going into K through 12 education, and we'll outline specifics of that at a later point. But suffice it to say, to put $100 million into K through 12.
The 200-mile trip began in Two Harbors as Ken Foxworth laced up his shoes and jogged 32 miles to Duluth. The first leg of the Run for Excellence 2 did not feature the most ideal weather conditions, but according to Foxworth, overcoming the weather during such a meaningful event is rather symbolic of what he is hoping to accomplish.
Good news, we're telling it. Bad news, you can sell it. And what we're trying to do is to tell the message that any barrier, you can do whatever you want to if you just believe in it. And so from this, we just show an action.
Last year's Run for Excellence began in St. Paul and stretched 154 miles to the Duluth City Hall. In all, $56,000 was raised for the Harry Oden Scholarship Fund. Some of that money has already benefited 7 college students by helping ease the burden of tuition.
It's about diversity, about scholarship, but it's about the underdog too. A person who somebody's been telling them that they couldn't read, couldn't write, but somebody didn't tell them to give them hope, to give them faith, to motivate them to be whatever they can be.
The initial goal of the run was to raise $150,000 and establish 12 yearly scholarships. Run for Excellence 2 has already brought him $34,000 closer to that goal.
We didn't raise $150,000, but now, this time we will. And if it don't happen, I'll raise it until I'll run until I do it.
Day 2 of the Run for Excellence will begin at Denfield High School and end some 27 miles south of Duluth, just past the town of Holyoke. Foxworth will finish his run on March 14th at the Northrop Auditorium on the University of Minnesota's main campus. Along the North Shore, John Jetta, News 6.
We don't fix tickets, and counselors don't fix tickets. They'll have to go to court. And if they want a trial, they should plead not guilty, and then we'll have a trial.
And go kayaking out in the ice glaciers to see the whales, and go caribou hunting maybe, and see the wildflowers on the Denali Park, and just all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's nice to get to meet so many different people and see what's going on, you know.
I think it would be a real interesting profession.
I had to see my husband, just his health and everything, and saw him degenerate, everything that we'd worked for. And then they stand there in that courtroom, and they talk to him like he was an animal. And it hurt. And I wanted to scream, and every time I'd get mad, Roy'd look at me and he'd tell me, go home and pray.
First, if you want a laptop, you might want to put off buying for a few months. Falling prices on Pentium chips and an oversupply of screens should drive the cost down. And laptops with DX4 chips, one notch below the Pentium, could drop by as much as 30%. On desktop models, look for more built-in everything. A year from now, a $1,700 entry-level machine will have a 75 megahertz Pentium chip, a 1 gigabyte hard drive, 8 to 16 megabytes of RAM, and a quad-speed CD-ROM drive. For Apple fans, the big news is the lower-priced Macintosh Power PC clones due this spring from Power Computing Corporation. The company says its clones will cost anywhere from 15 to 20% less than comparable Macs.
Notice the feathers out of the logo? Notice the feathers coming out?
We tried to make the cuts in a way that would impact students the least. Unfortunately, it's impossible to make cuts of that nature without affecting how you do business. So some of the programs that we have will be affected.
Everything from the baseball strike to the Civil War to women's rights, story of Harriet Tubman, story of Iron Range. We even have one that's just doing their own personal family history.
Well, it's a stressful situation, feeling lost, and orienting yourself, knowing where you've been, where you are, and where you're going is not, it's a skill that's learned. It's not just common sense, and so you have to have a plan. And
At 6:35 this morning, I received a call from the American Embassy in Kuwait. They informed me there are no new developments. At 9:30 this morning, Representative Cliff Stearns also called to express his support.
It is deplorable that such a trial and conviction could take place so quickly, especially since the United Nations Iraq-Kuwait Observer Mission, otherwise known as UNICOM, has admitted responsibility for misdirecting them into entering Iraq.
Through and log in. Not on the net will be able to come here and see a picture of it. And from here, do you want to log in to Kathy's account? Yeah, we need to get her email.
At City Hall, make sure that lot dimensions and building materials are all correct.
I remember when she called me that morning and told me what had happened. I mean, I hurt.
Small purple flowers adorn the only visual reminder that Peter Moore's life was quickly taken from him a year ago today. Peter Moore, Keith Hermanson, and Sam Witherspoon were shot and killed at a house party. Sam would have been celebrating his 22nd birthday yesterday, but he's not forgotten. His mother spoke about her son's death for the first time since it happened.
I just want to take the opportunity to officially go on record as saying that I appreciate the care and the concern that this community has shown me and my family, and without that I couldn't have made it.
Last February, a jury convicted 19-year-old Todd Warren of the brutal murders. He'll spend at least the next 30 years behind bars. Outside prison walls, the deaths of the young men have sparked a community-wide effort to put an end to violence.
The reason why you want violence-free Duluth is active is because it has to be everybody in the community involved on some level.
Experts say the tide of violence is turning. More and more victims killed at a younger age. But coalitions against violence and racism are calling for an end to it all by banding together as a community to teach kids that there's a better way than this to end an argument.
I'm getting there, but I am doing okay. I'm going to make it.
In Duluth, Molly McMillan, Channel 6 News.